Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Menace. It is the middle of the afternoon and we are returning to, yes, books. And there's sort of aspects of addiction, more parts of my book collection. Well, what are these? Well, if you notice closely, these are game design books. Now, on previous video, where I was unboxing a box of books that had a sort of a semi-random selection of things I was putting away, one of the subscribers, Corvinus Wargaming, he said he didn't realize there's so many books on game design. It says, I will cover more. Now, I didn't comment at the time to say, oh my God, you have no idea, there are so many books on game design. Now, this is a small selection here. One of the things that's not here are books that are solely about computer or video games. Some of these books have aspects about computer or video games, digital games, but there are so many of those. Now, I want to aside, many books on game design for video games are actually either on character design or level design, or they're on game development programming, not actually on game design, even though game design might be in the name. Okay? So that's just something to be aware of. Now, again, we're not looking at those books. Also, what's not here are game design books on miniature games. In British parlance, they call wargaming. That's their term for miniature gaming. And in the US, when we say wargaming, we mean things like hex and counter games or impulse area control games, or that's typical war games to US gamers, and folks in Britain, when they say wargaming, they usually mean miniature games. So there are a lot of books out there on miniature game rules and designing said miniature wargaming campaigns and such, not covered here. So these are tabletop, some called by some analog, tabletop analog game designs, non-digital. So, and again, this is not, I've not included books here on things that drill down to like dice games, card games, collectible card games. So I've tried to keep it a little more high level, and I'm gonna work my way through. These aren't actually necessarily suggestions per se, even though some of these are very classic books in the field. I'm gonna start here. Rules of Play, Design Fundamentals. This is what you might consider a textbook of computer game design, both digital and analog. I'm not going to go into super detail in the table of contents, but just looking through the high level of the chapters, sometimes defining what's a game, what's a digital game, talking about various systems, interactivity, and then they talk about schemas. So rules, play, and culture. So this chapter becomes these 3 units. Now this magic circles, this is the circle around where does the game take place? What is, in a sense, the setting for the game? Is it, on a board, on a map, on a mat? Is it, oops, some books are falling over, I'll pick those up. Is it just directly on a tabletop, or is it in your mind? Is it theater of the mind? But so this is a good book to look at the high level concepts of game design in general, which includes digital games, and tabletop games. So if you want sort of like like you're viewing your game design journey as kind of like getting a degree, this might be a good place to start to get your fundamentals course in. Now, if you're like, oh my God, that sounds way too boring. Yeah, it could be for many people. There are other options. Now, let me fix this stack here that's falling over. Sorry, here we were. All right. So, what other aspects of game? A theory of fun for game design. So, Rafe Koster. Okay, this book has been around for a while. It's the second. I don't know if it's already in a third edition or not. Forward by Will Wright. Will Wright is the famous designer of SimCity, which was many people call it its original incarnation more of a toy rather than a game per se. It definitely evolved into being more game-like. It was more like a simulation toy. But a theory of fun for game design. I'm not going to look at the table of contents, but there's humorous little art in here that sort of addresses some of the issues. But what I want to talk about here, okay, so most people think, games are to have fun, right? Obviously, games are for fun. Well, the answer is yes and maybe not. There are many reasons why people might play games, and I'm going to give you my reasons in a minute, but this brings it to this book here, Homo Ludens. This may be a name that's familiar to you. This is actually the name of a channel on YouTube, Homo Ludens, Fred Serval. Where he got that is from this book. Okay, this book was written in the 30s. This translation into English happened in the 40s. Johann Huizinga, I'm not sure the exact pronunciation, but this is a study of play element in culture. Now, Homo Ludens means, in a sense, game-playing man. Gaming man, gameplay man, game-playing man, in a sense. And it looks at some of the different, this is the play element in culture. And some of this is again, it's kind of a little, intellectual, academic, but it looks at many elements of socialization, in terms of law, war fighting, knowing things, science, poetry, arts, philosophy. Play and poetry, art. They have a separate one there. Language. So it's a broad-based look at cultural phenomena with play, and play is broader than just games. There's different ways that you could play, and the playing of games is one of the ways that you can play. So this gives me an idea how there's different aspects than just having fun per se. Now, to me, I come to games for another. I like to have fun when I play games, and I'm gonna put these two back up here so you can see these two titles as I'm talking about them. And here's another one. You said this would be fun. Most people's mind fun is the main reason to play a game. Now, I like to be challenged. So sometimes it's like, I want to test my skill or my knowledge, see if I can outwit other people or outwit a game system. But also I come to learn. So there are educational games, and while there are some educational games that are just general education, I specifically enjoy learning about geography and history. So therefore, war games are my biggest, love in gaming. Okay, historical games, war games, learning geography, learning history. So I can play a game, and while I'm doing it, I could be learning. Or I might not even play the game per se. I might consume the game as a tool to help my learning in terms of reading the rules, setting it up, figuring out the mechanism, seeing how things interrelate. And I might not end up actually playing the game or playing a full game. I just might use it as a device to aid in my learning. So besides fun and challenge, learning, education, learning specific topics potentially, I also have a fascination with game design. As you can see, these books here, and this is just a small selection. So I enjoy games as a way of learning game design, comparative game design, comparing games, comparing different versions of the same game, comparing different games on the same topic, the same battle, for example, the same theme, but seeing different ways that they are implemented. That's another way that I enjoy games. So not just having fun or being challenged or learning, but learning about the game, sort of a meta sense of not learning from the games, but about the games and through the games and roads to different games and creating games. So that's my reasons for enjoying games and game design. Okay, here's another one. This would be fun. So we sort of talked about it. This is about what makes a good game and how to make a good game. And so obviously, again, fun is one of them, but they do talk a little bit about different ways of engagement, okay? Engagement with the game. How does it make you think, having interesting decisions to make, and what kind of expectations do you have about a game, okay? And so that's some of the aspects of, as a designer, you wanting to make a quote-unquote good game, which may be fun, which may be other things, trying to understand your audience, okay? And so they talk about fun, but different player goals and incentives, depth, different kinds of interaction that you can have, how competitive or cooperative it is, how much cognitive load it is. Maybe you want an easy, light, refreshing game. Maybe you want that challenging game, etc. Okay, so this is a good look. Fun's in the title, but it's not all about fun. It's how to make a good game, what makes a good game, and part of that is understanding, as a designer, what's your target audience, realizing that different people come to games for a different reason, and how do you communicate that through the game itself and the information about the game and how it's marketed, etc. All right, so talking about games. So in terms of me mentioning my interest in comparative game design and describing games here, having a vocabulary. Now, this particular book is mostly focused on computer games, but it is relevant to role-playing games and tabletop games. At least one of the authors has done more than just computer games, has done role-playing games. I'm not sure if also board games or not. But this can be a good, because again, it's focused on good game design, exploring the foundational principles and having a vocabulary with which to talk about. Now, you'll notice here that most of the pictures are screens from video games in here. Like I said, I know that, at least one of the individuals has had broader experience, but much of the vocabulary can be extended to the extent, if it is limited or directed towards, the digital world, it can be broadened, and one can leverage this vocabulary. So following along that path, one of this is sort of a broader scope of talking about games and game designs as a whole. But when we come to tabletop game design, building, like here we're talking about mechanisms. Now, I use the term mechanisms instead of mechanics. Okay, a lot of things are the mechanics in a game. Technically, if you really want to get technical, and some people do, and I sort of, by default, I go ahead and do the technicality. Mechanics are people. Mechanics are the guys that fix cars, or gals, excuse me, the people that fix cars, or mechanical engineers. Mechanics are people. Mechanisms are the things that mechanics tweak and work on and repair or build on, put together, depending if it's, a repairing type mechanic or a building type mechanic, like a mechanical engineer. So this is the second edition of this here. Jeffrey Ingelston, he had a book or two in that pile of books that I had before that I was doing the unboxing of. So this is truly encyclopedic. This talks about different kinds of open auctions, investment aspects, automatic resource growth, any kind of mechanism, highest, lowest, circuit breaker, sudden death, dice selection, enclosure, ratio, combat results table. So let's quickly look at the high level here. So we can start, it talks about, the game structure itself: competitive, cooperative, team-based, solo, semi-cooperative, single loser, trader games, scenario, mission, campaign games, score and reset games, legacy games. Then, so that's the structure of games as a whole. And then within a game, turn order and structure, fixed turn order, stat turn order, bid turn order, progressive turn order, claim, etc. How can there's 17 entries in here, ranging from page 31 to 76, about turn order within a game. Actions within a game: action points, drafting, action retrieval, action event, command cards, action cues, etc., etc., etc. Order counters, action selection, restrictions, variable player powers, once per game abilities, advantage tokens, 23 of those, layering, matching, slide, push, bingo, narrative choices, events, resolution, how to resolve a particular thingy. Is it a combat? Is it a chance to find or do something? High numbers, stat checks, critical hits, failures, die icons, card play, rock, paper, scissors, prisoner dilemmas, mini-map, target clues, dice selection, action speed, hot potato, flicking, stacking, balancing, everything. We're talking about tiddlywinks and Jenga, because this is the whole gamut of different kind of games. Gamut of Games, which is actually a Sid Jackson game title. I don't have those classics out here. Sid Jackson has written, at least a dozen books. How to end a game, end game and victory, end game bonuses, player elimination, connections, elapsed real time, king of the hill, catch the leader, victory points, tug of war, all these different things. Uncertainty, how to deal with fog of war. Is it memory, hidden roles, push your luck, variable setup, discussion, deduction, hidden control, question and answer, betting and bluffing, economics in a game, auctions in a game, worker placement, movement, area control, set collection, card mechanisms. There you go. So that's okay. I'm dwelling on this one because this is an encyclopedic tome that definitely, if you want to be a game designer and just the ability to flip through here and see different ways that different things have been done, and maybe you're working on something's just wrong with your certain aspect of your game, you can go in here, read up on what it says about the particular mechanisms that you're using, and then go and see, well, what's adjacent here in this space, in this broader chapter? What are other things? And maybe if I make a slight tweak and change my mechanism, or find some ways to meld it with another one, this could be a very valuable tome to you. All right. This is another classic here that the Art of Game Design, it's called A Book of Lenses. All right. And so this is broader than the mechanisms. This is more sort of like looking at this design vocabulary, but for a broader aspect of game design and sort of game overall production. So, I mean, it talks about game design. Is that tilted up enough? But the designer as creating an experience, okay? And so a game itself does not create the experience, but the players engaging with the game are generating an experience, okay? And they're going to have certain, feelings about that and responses to that. And so experience now within the particular contents that takes place in a venue that rise out of the game. The experience consists of various elements, and these elements support a particular theme, okay? And then they go back, well, the game that's going to generate experiences starts with an idea, and you work on that idea and you prove it through iteration. Again, I use the American pronunciation, not iteration, but iteration. And then it's looking at the player, because the game is made for a player, players. And again, this is a question of audience and how much of the designer is in the game or not, and what type of players are there. The amount of experience that is in the player's mind, and broader than that, because they're when they're talking about empathy, it's mind and feelings to some degree are mind, but not necessarily conscious mind, right? You have unconscious, subconscious feelings. To talk about motivation, and heck, here now that they're to the game mechanics. So some of this lenses are going to relate to the other book. But they sort of have, a different look at, not drilling down at the same level as this other one. So some looks at broader pictures of some ways to look at and conceptualize these others. This is more forest, and this was, let me get that over here. This one was trees, right? This is trees of mechanism, and this is a forest level picture of mechanisms. Now, they're calling them mechanics, but I'm substituting mechanisms, okay? Then they talk about the balance, that mechanics or mechanisms must be in balance, that there has to be a certain interplay and a flow, balance that, one mechanism or another doesn't dominate, that they have to coexist in such a way that they complement and blend together. Otherwise, maybe you need to remove something. Now, talking about puzzles, an interface on a game. Now, a lot of people, they like an interface. Like, I know what you're talking about when you're talking about a video game, the user interface, the UI. But board games have an interface. There's information, and how is it sort of stored and presented, and how does the players work with it? So what kind of tokens, trackers, beads, where is information kept? On a hex and counter war game, you've got counters themselves with strength values, but is something flipped over because it's damaged? Do you put another mark on it because it's stunned, or is it routing? And you may look up, you might have an ABC quality, rating, and you go look up a strength elsewhere or do another trick. There's all sorts of ways that, that's an interface, that there's various information within a game, and how the players get to it and use that information to resolve what is happening. Okay, I'm sort of going into this one in depth, and I'm going to go a little faster here. Experiences can be judged by interest curves. One kind of experience is a story. So some people talk about story. Story is the most important thing in a game. And if you want a story out of a game, then story is the most important thing to you. But not all games are for the purpose of generating a story. Okay, sometimes it is a challenge, or like a puzzle game. It's solving it. There's not a story. You can tack a story around it, but it's not a story per se. And all war games are not necessarily the narrative that it generates. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, sometimes it's not a narrative in that classic sense. It's more like, again, it can be like a puzzle. Now, I'm going to talk about puzzles in a little bit later here when we get to Louis Pulsifer. We're getting towards that. But let's move on. Indirect control. Games take place in worlds. Again, the setting is sort of the magic circle that the other thing was. Where is the boundary of where the game takes place thematically in your mind and physically? Characters, spaces, aesthetics, other players, sub-games are played with other players, communities, teams, communicates through the team, sometimes through documents, play testing, team with technology. So now they're getting to the point more of the production thing. Okay, you might have documents in building a game, play testing it, utilizing technology. I remember this was about lenses. I started game design, a book of lenses, so different ways of viewing the game design process. So now it's getting to like publisher and marketing, client. Who's the audience? But this is a broader sense in that the audience, for example, can be 8-year-olds might be the audience for their game, but the client is the parents, because it's the parents that are going to buy the game. All right. And also the sense of if you're trying to market your game as a design to a publisher, that's also a client relationship. But profit, games transform their players. So this is back to experience, but what does the experience do for you potentially? Responsibilities and purpose. So I delved into this one a lot. There's a lot in it, and I recommend it. Now we're getting into a little more specific. So this is very specifically just about tabletop analog game design, which is that redundant? Tabletop are all now we have digital tabletop games, which are it's like if you take a tabletop board game and you make a digital version, you have a tabletop digital game. But it's really now a digital game, a video game, but it's of a board game. So is this distinction, how important is it? I don't know. Then I just don't like the word. There we go. Signed by Greg Kostikian and Drew Davidson. I'm not really familiar with Drew Davidson. This is a collection of sort of articles. Now, some of them recognize Lou Pulsifer, James Dunnigan. We're starting in with some wargame designers, some other folks that you may or may not recognize the names. Now, Ian Schreiber, he did not, have anything to do with the production of Settlers of Catan, but he was a professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology, where they had a computer game program, and I started taking courses from him online on an introduction to not computer game design, but just game design in general. And the focus was on doing, paper board game stuff. He's now working for a game publisher. I can't remember which one. Peter Olotka. This is one of the three gentlemen that's involved in the creation of Cosmic Encounter and that Dune board game that came out in the 80s. Richard Garfield, of course, you'll recognize, the creator of Magic the Gathering and Robo Rally and others. Greg Kostikian, of course, longtime wargamer and creator of role-playing games like Paranoia, etc. All right, so I didn't really look at all the specific names of the articles in there, but this is a nice collection of sort of tying together, say, with this, a little shorter, a little, broader selection of topics, and from some of the names that you'll recognize in the field. So that's one worth getting. Now now we're getting into more specific stuff. This one here, gameplay. Now, paratextuality in contemporary board games. Wow, paratextuality. Does that sound like an academic phrase? Basically, what this book is talking about is a lot of people, or some people, think that licensed board games that use an intellectual property, an IP, are not necessarily very creative. They're taking an IP and they're slamming a game together, and yeah, they're using that setting, but boy, sometimes you get some really crappy games that come out of, especially look at old games from the 60s and 70s. Sometimes I can't even remember, a Bonanza game or a Miami Vice game or something. And you can have just like really basic, crappy games for preteens, 8 to 12-year-olds or something, and they're, excuse my friends, but they're crap. Let crap. But this book is saying that is not necessarily so, and sometimes the setting, the intellectual property can be tapped into in such a way that really inspires designers to give something really grand to the players and the consumers. And so, like, don't just slough off IP games, but actually be open to the wealth of creativity. And I'm going to read you the ones that they focus on in here. So, there's so much Cthulhu, right? Lovecraft, it's, in the public domain. And so they talk about Arkham Horror, and a lot of people, there are many Cthulhu-ish, Lovecraftish games that aren't great, but some of them are real classics. Lord of the Rings, of course. The Walking Dead. Battlestar Galactica. Star Trek. The Hunger Games. Game of Thrones, and Doctor Who. So, there could be more that might be, that great IPs out there, but this is what they focused on, and talking about certain, aspect, convergent gameplay, transmedia pathos, whatever exactly that means, schematic meaning, what the heck does that mean? Mutability and materiality, fan paratextual participation, narratives and databases, ludic interaction, again, ludology, the study of games. So this is an interesting one, especially if you like, or if you're a game designer and you're considering about wanting to pursue an IP. Now, one, it can be very expensive, and to the degree to which you can potentially build a system with your mechanisms that could attach to any IP, but if you really think, no, this has to be this IP, this is something you want to look at in terms of, can your creativity be broader and beyond that one IP? Or if you really think you need to go for that one IP, this might help you sell, your ability to convince the IP owner that you are the person to do this, that you have the understanding, you are going to make the IP stronger for your contribution by coming out with your game, and you're going to leave the IP stronger and more popular by engaging with it. So that might be for you if you're in that mindset. All right. So now we're getting sort of to the wargamey side of stuff, strategy games, war games. I'm going to take a quick look at Lewis Pulse for here. You can get this book pretty cheap right now. It's been out for quite a while, but this is how to create video and tabletop games from start to finish. He wanted to focus a little more on non-video games, but the publisher wanted to be both. But I'm not sure if he's working on a new edition or a whole new game or not. But not game, a whole new book on game design or not. One thing to say about Lou is he has opinions, and he has some strong opinions. And if you need to have, excuse my French, but smoke blown up your butt to rah, he tries to tell you like it is. You are not going to get rich making games. Okay, you're more likely to get rich buying lottery tickets than you are making games. Some people do not want to hear that. Now, you can find enough people that you can do anything you want. You can do it. You can, if you've got the passion, the drive, you can do it, right? Okay. He's not going to tell you that. Okay. And so if you've got the passion, drive, that's fine. Keep it to yourself and just recognize that, yeah, you are more likely to win the lotto than you are to create the next big pandemic, or Ticket to Ride or Blockus or things like that. Games that are, really hit big, made a lot of money. You're not Rainier Knizia. You're not Rainier Knizia. Okay. Just, and you're, okay. So another thing about Lou, okay, he likes war games, but he's more into he's done some 2-player war games, but he's not the hardcore war games that many of us on this channel are into. He's not, he has done Hex Encounter war games, but they were like Dragon Rage and Valley of the Four Winds. They were fantasy war games. His biggest, war game bestseller was Britannia. That's, an area movement, big sweep of history, 1,000 years of history, but it's, the complexity of it is very simple. Now, it's a very deep game. That's one of the things that he likes. He likes multiplayer games that are deep in the sense of a lot of gameplay, not complexity. 4-player, that's the standard way to play Britannia, has so much to it of how it works, the interaction between players, with the way the system works as you control multiple, quote unquote nations, kingdoms. They're not really nations in the modern sense of nations that come till much later, but that sense of quote unquote nationalities, kingdoms, tribes, peoples. It's a very, very, very deep game. Now, another thing to be said, I mentioned about puzzles before. You will not find anything in here about puzzle games other than Lou telling you he does not like puzzle games. He does not like puzzle games. And if you want to do puzzle games, he'll give you a little wisdom that his definition of a puzzle game is that the puzzles have one and only one solution. And I personally believe that the notion of a puzzle that can be within a game does not require one unique solution. Okay? If you are utilizing puzzles within a game, it is okay to have multiple solutions if it affects the decision-making of the player. Okay? So if you have to decide here, I have stumbled upon a way to solve this puzzle by combining, say, this resource and this thing here and this text, but it's going to cost me this amount. It's going to, I know there exists a cheaper solution. That might be considered the perfect solution, but there's a trade-off. Do this more expensive thing now versus wait and do the cheaper thing later. That's an interesting decision. What else can you do with this resource or that resource? That's opportunity cost. Okay. Or in some aspect, comparative advantage. If you're tying up the use of, say, a character's time or something, you need, some worker placement aspect along with, use of resources or something that are consumed. So puzzles within a game, to me, can have multiple solutions, and you're trying to come up with, for the context, for you at this moment, at this time, given the state of the game and the other players and what's going on, what is your optimal solution for now? Okay, so that's enough of that. So interesting book. You can get it really cheap, like under $20, maybe like $19. Maybe it's gone up now, but all right. So we're getting towards the end here. I'm going to save this one for last. George Phillies has been doing war game design stuff for many years. This is more general contemporary perspectives on game design, interviews with gaming greats. I do not know if this is the Tom Vassell of Dice Tower. I think that Tom Vassell is spelled differently. but this could be that Tom Vassell. I do not know. This Third Millennium Publishing, I don't know if you can still get these. This is George Philly's own thing. He also has some like novels he wrote and things out there. But let's just take a quick look at who are some of the designers. Ted Racier. I'm looking for the Wargamer dudes. Martin Wallace. Richard Garfield, again, not Wargamer dude, but Magic the Gathering and Robo Rally. Some publishers. Steve Jackson Games. I don't recognize the other ones. Game mongers. That's an interesting. A fishmonger, a game monger. Hobbyists. Collectors. Yeah. Interview me. So author's biography. Tom. We could try to check that real fast to see if it's the same Tom Vassell. It is. It is Tom Vassell. All right, Dice Tower. So, which is interesting. Yeah, George Phillies is mostly noted as being a wargamer, but this being general perspectives on game design, and this is on strategy games. Tom Vassell is noted for being not liking wargames, not liking most wargames. Yeah, I can say most. Before we get there, so notice he did not co-author the Designing Wargames introduction. Here, this one is a guest chapter by Greg Kastikian in here. So, elements of contemporary strategy games. I'm pretty sure you can get these like on a PDF, but getting these print copy ones, you got to be lucky. Sometimes they get reprinted and they sold out real quick. Mass market board gaming analytic index project problems. The games, yeah, this is not necessarily useful from a table of contents from our purposes. Like, what is this about, right? So the devil will be in the details in here. But he talks about particular games and using them as okay, Battle Line. There's one we're talking about, Rainer Knizia. Many of you are familiar with that. But okay, now this is his Designing War Games, and I believe he uses some old Avalon Hill as an example. I believe there's a series of videos online on YouTube, and I'm not sure if it was done before this book or along with this book. I think it was Stalingrad. Yeah. So they talk about classic rules styles, the various elements, qualitative variables, how board game works are played, units, counters, locations, combat terrain, combat supply lines, isolation. So, for some people in the game design space, war games seem very, very complicated. And to us that have played a lot of games, it's not really that difficult unless you get to, certain games like Red Strike, and you're just adding complexity, and there's a lot there, but it can still be mastered. But to some people, it's like having this kind of a examination can really help expose that as being, it's not that difficult if you break it down into these components: maps and grids, unit counters. Okay, they're looking at the 1914 board game, Panzer Blitz. So we were looking at Stalingrad before. So this obviously, if you're a wargamer, this might be of interest to you if you can find it now. So this is sort of like the classic zones of control, perspectives on wargaming. This is, again, it's an edited, it's academic, but it's from many people in the industry, forwarded by James Dunnigan. It's got a chapter from Greg Kastikian in here. It is from MIT Press, but it's not all chapters are written equally. So Tetsuya Nakamura famous Japanese game designer, Jack Green. Whenever you're familiar with him, Lee Brimacombe Woods. Mark Herman, of course, Ted Racier, Peter Perla, who's now no longer with us, and neither is Jack Green, Rachel Simmons, John Tiller has passed. He was a lot of digital war games. Larry Bond, famous for his Naval Harpoon and Persian Incursion. This one is about, but yeah, Harpoon is his big famous game system. I love this name. Don't know what he's done. Andrew Wackerfuss. Got to love it. Philip Sabin. Philip Sabin here did, let me see if I can grab it. He did this whole Lost Battles. It's like an ancient games design kit. It's got a whole bunch of scenarios in it, but sort of the ability for you to make more. And it comes with a book. Now, my book was not in here. I've got to find my book. I got separated from this, but it's about, you know, the sort of the history behind this and using this system and game design and various aspects. So that might be of interest to a number of you. Looking through here. Okay, we've got Brian Train and Volker Runke. Obviously, a lot of coin game, Levy and Campaign. Brian Train's done many insurgency type games and various interesting small scale, you know, brief border wars and other things like that. John Prados, of course. Third Reich is probably his most famous, but many different game designs. Stephen Cole on Starfleet battles. Joseph Miranda, many titles. Greg Kostikian, we've already mentioned him before. So this here is definitely, if you're into wargaming in general and wargame design, absolutely pick up Zones of Control. So this has been Meandering Mike. I was figuring it's going to about 40 to 45 minutes. We're at 47. Quite the stack. So definitely, I'm going to push this back so you can see this one here. Definitely works if you're a wargamer type. If again you're a wargamer type, this one, if you can find it. These less so. There's a lot of other, you know, better titles on general design. If you like nonsense, curmudgeonly kind of advice, not going to blow smoke up your ass. You can't do better than Louis Pulsifer. He's got his opinions. He's got his opinions for reasons, and you may not agree with him, but you know, I consider him my game design mentor. Even though I've never taken a class with him, I support him on Patreon. Yeah, my favorite game of all time is Britannia. Just to be clear about that. Again, this is if you're interested at all in the potential idea of utilizing an IP in a game design, absolutely take a look at this game. This book here goes along sort of with Zones of Control in terms of sort of the nature of it, a collection of sort of articles written, you know, somewhat in the academic style, but mostly from experienced professionals. Yeah, if you like that kind of thing, go for it. We're not gonna get too high now. We're not good here. This Art of Game Design. A Book of Lenses. Again, this is this one, A Book of Lenses. This gives a very interesting, broad picture of many aspects of game design and different way to consider different aspects. So if you're interested in the idea of taking on learning game design from the idea of like, I'm getting a degree in it or a certificate or something like that, you might want to start here. If you feel I don't need this or it's too academic or whatever, this could be good followed by this, or jump straight to this. If you're going to get into the nitty-gritties, if you like Wargames, this one, Lou's good just for a nice quick read, general approach to the whole business. And if you're an older fellow or lady like myself, but you like the no nonsense approach, Pulsifer, if you're gonna really get into game design and you think that's something that you want to do, this is a resource that you should have. This is a reference that will be invaluable to you. And maybe this in terms of if you are going to interact with other designers, if you want to like get in part of a playtesting team, there's many playtesting circles, people that playtest each other's games, just having a little broader base understanding of what everyone's talking about and being able to talk to other designers, to publishers, and wanting to bounce ideas off of each other and use the vocabulary. This could be very important. And then, again, it's getting too hot. I'm going to put these down here. Let's see here. Can I see these? I'm going to push those back. Oh, well, I'm going to move these and put these here so you can see them. All right, so the notion of what are games for? Why do we play games? Fun? Various factors, social factors, again, learning, socialization, learning history, geography, challenge, what makes a good game, to what degree, what's fun for doing, or the notion of engagement, any of these. This is the most sort of academic. If you're just going to want to get these two. I would say if you really want something light to read, get this one. If you want a broader base, get this one. If you're just going to get one, okay. But if you want to get the lightest entry to the notion of what are games about and fun, I'd start with this one. But this one's a little better, broader base. But if you're really serious about, go for all three. All right. So Meandering Mike, here, an hour 52 minutes. We're going to stop here because we are meandering, but we had to sort of sum up and wrap up that. So yes, Sam of Corvinus Wargaming. There are many books on game design, and here's a relatively small selection of games that one can add to their collection. And these aren't even, Sam, of course, Corvinus Wargaming is about miniatures. He is totally into putting together armies, utilizing different systems, adapting different systems, and that. He's also into role-playing and that kind of stuff. But in general game design that can adapt to video games, board games, to some aspect inform miniature game design, but nothing here is specific to miniature game design. So of course, as I always say, take care of your games, and they'll take care of you. Take care of your books, and they'll take care of your mind. Take care of your games, your books about games, or designing games, and we'll take care of the world with new games that are fun or challenging, exciting, new experiences that can teach and engage you in whatever that the game has to offer. So, ciao, y'all.